African innovators and social entrepreneurs that are trying to make a difference in the region. And we wanted to make sure that their voices came through and have a dedicated panel for that purpose.
I'm Larry Saruma, and I'm the managing principal for Now Capital Management, and what we do, we invest in Africa. But today I have a distinguished and very accomplished panel, and we're here to hear a little bit more about their perspective about development and what they've been doing on the continent, and give a quick introduction about what you do and the talk.
You mean on the basketball side? My name is Africa.mov. I'm the chairman and the president of the Africa.mov Foundation. It's an organization that built a $30+ million hospital in the Congo 5 years ago.
My name is Levan Bowie. I'm from Liberia. I'm a peace and women's rights activist. I have been in the business of starting organizations. In my next life, I don't think I want to do that. I am a founding coordinator of the Women Peace Building Network. I am co-founder and executive director of the Women Peace and Security Network Africa. And currently I am the founder and president of the Bowie Peace Foundation Africa. So as we'll talk about what I do. My life is filled of foundings.
My name is David Senge, and if a Nobel Peace Prize winner is starstruck, then I guess I just got hit by a lightning bolt. I'm from Sierra Leone. I'm a PhD student at MIT where I design prosthetic devices. How can you make them comfortable? But today I'm here because we're doing a national competition for high school students in Sierra Leone and trying to instill this learning by doing, and the fact that you need to create, you need to build solutions for your own. We need to have a generation of creative doers in Sierra Leone and all across. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that competition during this panel.
I'm Alan Schwartz, the founder of Mozambique Forest Center in Mozambique, which is a community-based forest conservation organization which basically gets people to make really high-quality things out of forest products. To try and break the sort of neo-colonial economic model of just exporting resources, but to use them at home to the maximum benefit for the people who are there, and that then provides the incentive for conservation.
I am Jackson Kaguri. I'm the founder and executive director of the Nyaka AIDS Orphans Project. Our organization is in southwestern Uganda. As I said earlier, we take that holistic approach in addressing issues facing AIDS orphans in this area. Grandmothers, healthcare, farming, everything that takes out an obstacle for a child to succeed.
What are the unique advantages of having Africans found and lead development efforts in Africa? Let me start with Jackson.
That's an interesting question. Let me start by saying humanity. And today we'll be preaching to the choir, because all of you do so much work on the continent of Africa, and I'm not one of those who believes Africans should do work in Africa. I'm an author of a book that is read by millions of people. None of them are Africans, and my wish is they all take it up and do something. The elders in our community, we work so closely with elders. And that's not something anyone will teach you when you were born and raised in Africa. You understand when an old man walks to you and you are seated, you stand up and give them a seat.
I always look at the way Africa should be in charge of their own continent. As my brother just stated, that we do have a better understanding of our village. There's a great proverb that said that each child that is born in the continent should be looked by everyone living in the village. That the way that we was brought to our childhood since we were young. So that responsibility, you have started fading away as Africa becoming westernized. I think more Africans who are living in a major city have started feeling that I'm independent. Whatever the problem is going next door is not mine. Or whatever is going on to my village or to the province that I don't speak that language is not mine. And that's a big issue that we are facing.
Besides the passion and the compassion and the spirit of our oneness as a people, there is sustainability in those processes. People will hold on when they feel like they have a stake. People will bend backwards over when they feel like they have a stake. When we were asked to do this, I took my computer and said, let me write something. And then someone said to me, why do you want to write something? The typical story of the Liberian women protesting for peace for 2.5 years is an example of typical people, Africans taking their own issues. You do not look around when you're leading those issues, especially if they are affecting you, to say, I'm waiting for donors funding. You're fighting, it's not a day's job. That's the point I'm trying to make. It's not a 9-to-5 thing. It's a calling. You have to do it for the future of your community. One of the other things that came to mind as we tried to, in my mind, explore this question was, in Liberia, some of the women said they felt they could interact better with African peacekeepers than they could with peacekeepers from other countries. They felt in their villages the peacekeepers were more compassionate, they were more understanding. They didn't see it like, this is not part of my mission. You know, and I observed it many times when we went from village to village. Don't get me wrong. People come in, they have more compassion, others do their disadvantages, and we'll talk about that, affiliated with this. But if you're looking for a long-term sustainable thing, if people feel like this is my thing, they will hold on to it. One of the favorite stories we have in Liberia is a story of a village where the women used to walk to go and get water in Nimba County. And one of our international partners went in and felt they should put a hand pump in the middle of that community because the women were going too far. In less than 2 months, there was a sharp increase in alcoholism amongst the women. Sharp increase. Why? Walking to the stream was where they exhaled the infidelity of their husbands, the domestic violence, the frustration of their children. That 30 minutes walk to the stream and back was their therapy. Once it was taken away, alcoholism set in.
We wanted to have a radio interview to target these secondary schools in Freetown. And I said, why? You can do it. You're the head of operations. You can handle it. And he goes, no, I can't do it. I said, why? Well, his reason was sad, but also a reason why we need Africans to lead was, oh, well, he's a white guy. If he goes there, then people will listen to him a lot more. People will give him more ears, and he will give us the interview. And I told him, no. First of all, Grant shouldn't do this, and I'm going to talk to Grant, who's my friend. I'm seeing him today, actually. That, look, you shouldn't do this, but you, Mahmoud, should actually go and do this. And go and meet these leaders who are Sierra Leoneans just like you and say, I'm leading this initiative, I'm here because I want to have an interview because we're doing this work in all over Sierra Leone for the youth. And he went ahead and he called me the next day being very, very excited because now he had this number for the guy who was heading the radio show, and they had this conversation, and he was going to be on radio and TV. So that's a simple reason, is that we need people to aspire to, and we need Sierra Leoneans, we need local people to have ownership and leadership of these institutions.
I think one of the demonstrations of the diversity of Africa is that there is at least one white African in the panel. And what makes it really bizarre is I did some consulting in a country of which I'm not a citizen, in Madagascar, and we were talking about a whole lot of religious ritual and how it was using a vast amount of timber. And the guys were saying to me, you know, how can you deal with this? You know, are you the same religion as us? Because Madagascar's got some pretty amazing indigenous religious beliefs. And the guy said to me, you know, what are you? And I said, well, I'm Jewish. He looked at me and he said, but you're not black. I think that really the message that I would like to look at in terms of whether people in Africa who are providing the leadership are African, whether they are Africans who have left and are in a diaspora, or whether they are like myself who are African by virtue of the fact that our parents were refugees, is the quality of leadership. And the willingness of leadership, and I hate to say it, but most political leadership in Africa seriously sucks. For one reason, and that is that they don't actually look at what is around them. They don't actually pay attention to the people, to the environment, to what is there, and they don't listen. And I think that the quality of listening and looking and observing and paying attention is substantially greater than the quality of your origin.
Government in general, from the north all the way to the south, need to be able to let access to all those NGOs who are trying to do good for community, to provide those services to those people, instead of trying to give them a hard time, trying to get as much money as they can from them, and not just one time, where they want to be able, when they get today, they want to be able to come next year, the following, sometime the following month. You know, they want to know if you're building a school. I mean, you know, my kids, my nieces, my nephew will go to that school first before you bring all the villages people.
If you come from a country with 3.8 million people, where your face is a national face, and you have a foundation or you have a project, you've targeted based on your funding 3 communities. This is all I can do in 1 year, and a constant request from everyone that they want you to take it to their community. Since we started the foundation, we've been giving scholarships, and every relative of mine now wants to go to university. Even those who are selling in the market, they now want to go to university. That's a huge challenge, sticking to your plan. But then also, the other side is, in terms of sticking to your plans and the disadvantage, the needs are so great. And you get tempted every day to go one step above what you intended to do. So if you say to yourself, I will do 10 girls for this year, you go to a village for something unrelated, and you see one girl who is in desperate need of assistance, or who is a symbol of hope for that community, you have to do something. So it's close to home. Being a foreigner, I don't say people don't come with compassion, but sometimes it's like we're sticking to our game. I don't want my boss in New York or DC to get upset. But if you come from that area, it's something that is really close to heart. That's one of the, for me, there are many that you can talk about, but for me, that's one of the biggest disadvantage, that not sticking to your plan at all.
When it is an African-led organization, I'm going to go back and use several examples that happened here today. When Sasha spoke this morning, she told you when she went to Uganda, she went to the American Embassy, and she was able to meet with American Embassy people. I've been running Nyaka AIDS Orphans Project for 11 years. We've tried every year to meet with the embassy. They've never given me an appointment. So you always have a problem of you have to prove yourself beyond and I refuse to do that. So they don't give me that appointment. There's that one challenge. There's a challenge where you also have to realize that as partners, you have to sit on the table. And I'm borrowing this from President Kagame of Rwanda, who emphasizes that when you as a host invite me to your house, I go to my brother George's house, who works in Uganda, we sit on the table, it becomes a partnership. But many of our people back home in many African countries have accepted to invite you on the table, and when you get there, you sit on the table and they go under the table and catch crumbs. It doesn't become an exchange, equal exchange. It becomes you are superior, we are inferior, so whatever you say we will take. That's the second challenge. The third challenge, I will say again, borrow from Dr. Jackie. As Africans, we are told to be humble, and humility is the first thing we do. As a result, as Antonio told me this morning, we do not promote ourselves. We want Barry Siegel to talk about Nyaka AIDS organization, but when you put me on a podium, I'm not going to sing my own song. So we are learning now to go out and speak about your organization with force and praise. And you heard Dr. Jacques this morning telling you he's shy. The man is accomplished. He's done so much in his village. You should sing about it and tell the world. But we are told by our elders to be humble, and to be that humility comes with non-marketing strategies. We tend not to go out and market ourselves. And so that is changing as we go forward.
Everybody at some point needs help. It's a community, it's a global village. So what your job should be, what our job should be, is that we do our little part to allow the person to stand back on their feet and continue doing what they do. I heard somebody say recently that it's almost unethical to deny people what brings us so much joy. And what he was talking about is this joy you get from creating stuff, from bringing solutions, from helping other people. It's wonderful when you can work with your colleagues and your peers and do good. Why would you want to deny other people that joy?
There's so many organizations that, for example, are working to solve the problem with HIV/AIDS. It doesn't matter how much money you have, how big is your organization. But yourself, even here in America, you never got a chance to take a walk in Harlem or in Brooklyn or some of the poor area of here, our community in New York, and visit even one of the AIDS patient clinics to see what it's like to see someone who's suffering. What it's like shaking somebody's hands who have a disease that is going to die tomorrow and trying to talk to him and just to smell how he breathes every day. Those are the things that come to the reality that so many of us need to face. But we have so many organizations that are just sitting on the nice comfort office. Say, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do. The reality is not there. You have to face the reality.
With all due respect, with an example I'm going to give, I took a student intern. I'm saying this point so you can see it is both sides. It is not only expatriates who are coming in, it is also the attitude of the people on the ground in African countries. They tend to think that my brother Aaron here, he shows up and he's white, his color is white, that's money. Money came to the village, let's get some from him. And in that attitude, I took an intern student who worked for me, went to the village, arrived there, an employee of our organization, not a volunteer, not a stranger, an employee of our organization who was on payroll. On this big party of more than 700 people, stood up and introduced the student intern because she was white. That this is the woman who provides housing for grandmothers. We have this organization doing all this work because of Megan. And Megan started saying, no, Jackson is my boss. It's not me, it is Jackson. But to her, with the party that was taking place, she felt introducing a white girl from Michigan would give her more of that something, I don't know. So the attitude is both ways. That's like a caution for you who might have a different color. You are all Africans because we adopted you a long time ago when you decided to go and work in Africa. When you are walking that street, sometimes what people are perceiving you is a source of their problems. And so when you're working with the people on the ground, you don't want them to think you are the source of solutions to all their problems, because we end up giving them false hope.
If you sell your soul for even $1 million grant, you can never be able to call the shots the way you are putting it together. If someone wants to partner with you, you play by your rules. Because if you don't put your foot down, you get in trouble, your integrity is gone. Because when you work with communities, people trust you. In 2003, after we did our protest elections, everything, there was a group who came to those women. And you're right, they would tell stories because the color white, I'm not a racist, is affiliated in their minds, especially people who live in poverty with money. So if you don't go through locals, you go through them, everything they tell you will be a lie. And you spend $1 million in one community, and you're not understanding how there's a local NGO spending $100,000 in 10 years, and there's a vast difference in development initiative. African foundations, poverty should not drive the work that we do. If you don't have the expertise and people can't be bold to say, I do not have the expertise, there is another group to do that. Over time, you gain respect. I tell people my fish and chips is peace and security. Please do not come and ask me to do HIV and AIDS. I can't help you. Don't ask me to do microfinance. I can't help you. In that way, you gain respect. You want all, you lose all, including your credibility and your respect.
Somebody did mention today that we should embrace this opportunity of young people in Africa. If Africa is going to have 60 to 70% young people in the next couple of decades, why shouldn't we train? Why shouldn't we give these young people an opportunity now to start making solutions, to start doing something, so that when they're 30 and 40, we'll have a generation that's ready to lead and a generation that's ready to take the continent to where we never imagined.
You know, when we are leaders of big organizations, when we're politicians, even when we're doing research, that it's an offer and receive culture which drives Africa. And if we actually apply that respectfully all the time, we actually can solve the